Tim, I will go ahead and welcome you a little bit right now while people are joining. I want to just tell you a little bit about the people that are going to be in the audience. So some of them, we are going to have some Nerdwise team members on here. We did invite a handful of clients and also some friends. Coop and I were actually on a call with the head of marketing for Tiger Schulman's yesterday or 2 days ago. We are a candidate for their like agency of record. It just came out of nowhere, but I invited him. I told him to ask you a fastball. So if Dan Marshall comes on, we'll see if he does or doesn't. Do you work with Tiger Schulman's, Tim?
We've had a few. We're gonna do the Zoom. Everyone mute announcement. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Everyone do us a favor, hit that mute button, and everyone will be thankful for you. We have worked with some Tiger Schulman's in the past, and then as they've standardized and have a variety of different franchise models, it's kind of evolved. I don't believe we have any Tiger Schulman accounts.
Okay. Dan said that you've got him on your email list and he's getting your emails. So Dan may or may not join, but we are going to have that group here, and then of course this is going to be recorded. It will be shared. It will be seen by a mix of everybody, entrepreneurs, founders of all types. So we don't need to drill into all martial arts. It's not necessarily a martial arts specific conversation today, although we can go there. I did watch the interview that I found of you on our blog, which I thought was an interesting dynamic between you and I think Member Solutions as well. But I didn't know you own a martial arts school. Do you still own it?
Yeah, it's a great point. I owned it up until April 1st of this year. And I sold it to my manager who ran the school. So that's a great talking point at some point, but I did own a martial arts school for some time, despite not being a martial artist. It was more of a passion project for fun, education. And I can say I have a lot of respect for really any local business owner, but specifically martial arts school owners. I have a lot of respect for you, even more so than I had before I walked the walk.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for you doing that. At one point, I tried to get Coop to go in with me on building or buying a gym because we were hitting so many grand slams growing these gyms. I was like, dude, let's own a gym. But I don't belong in a gym, or maybe I do belong in a gym. So I probably should have bought one. But anyway, that would be another thing to deal with. So that's kind of who's in the audience. And then in terms of agenda, I want to do maybe 20, 30 minutes of just catching up with you. I'd love for you to do a proper introduction of yourself and then go down and maybe tell a little bit about your story and how you got to 97 Display from a career standpoint, and then selling your business, what that was like, and then now kind of back. I don't know if you work for somebody else, but what the dynamic is like selling your business and then still running it as part of another group. I think that's interesting to me. And then we'll open it up to the group. So we'll let them ask questions. You guys can chat them in, unmute yourself, jump in, ask them a question directly. But Tim, welcome. And I know you prefer Tim or Timothy. I actually hear you say Timothy, and then now on the Zoom meeting you put Tim. So
yeah, I cursed myself in the very beginning. In the very, very beginning, I made an email address called tim@97display.com. And after that point, my career name is Tim, although I refer to myself as Timothy. So it doesn't matter to me. I say maybe 50% of people call me Timothy, 40% of people call me Tim, and 10% call me Timmy. So
nice. I'm gonna join the 10%. So Timmy, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of run me through your entrepreneurial story. Did you have like a landscaping business as a kid, and then that butted into a lemonade stand that turned into martial arts websites, or like what got you in the game?
Yeah, well, I've always had the opinion that if you want something, you got to go get it. I come from a lower middle class family, and by no means was it a difficult upbringing at all. I was comfortable, but if I wanted something, I had to go buy it. Like I was the kind of family where it's like you could only eat one of the Pop-Tarts in a package. It was a package of 2, but you could only eat one, somewhat because of health reasons, but also because you got to ration the Pop-Tarts, man, or you're going to run out before we can buy some more. So I was the first person in my family to have a cell phone at 16. All my friends were getting, so these were the early days of cell phones, but my family didn't have one. My parents didn't have one. They didn't want to spend the money. And I wanted a cell phone. So I said, I'm going to go buy a cell phone. So I got, a Virgin Mobile prepaid, and it was great. And then I wanted a car. So, I'm working. I worked as an umpire. I worked at a Chick-fil-A. I did all that. I earned my money, and that's what I did. And then in college, I had enough saved up, and I had scholarships where I just, lived for 2 years. And then, what long story short, I ended up moving off campus after that. And I said, I got to pay all my bills. So I'm working service industry. So, for me, it was very much, I always worked, and I always earned, and I took what I wanted. And it was something where that's still instilled in me, where it's like a YOLO mentality. Like if you don't go and get it, you're not going to get it. So like every reasonable young person, I got a very, very meaningful college degree from a small, nobody ever heard of Southern Baptist University. And upon graduating with my media degree or whatever it was, I promptly couldn't get a job. So I did everything that you're supposed to do, man. I mean, I'm a professional online stalker. I found the place I wanted to go, and I'm going to go work at this marketing agency. And I was knocking on doors. I was visiting. I was giving gifts. I was handwriting cards. I was doing all that. Couldn't get it. And then had the opportunity. A guy that I randomly knew was doing a organic pizza catering company startup. He bought like $100,000 brick oven on wheels. This thing was awesome. It was a brick oven that you could transport on wheels, and we would go and do events. We would do any sort of pizza catering, and this was the best pizza you've ever had in your life. Like, it was awesome. So my job was to book events, and I got paid $0. I got a percentage of the events that we booked. So, maybe I made $100 here or there, but for the most part, I was waiting tables. But the reason why I did that was because I got to say that I was a marketing director on my resume. When in reality, let's face it, I was working for $0 at a pizza catering company. But I got that on my resume. And if you guys know, if you've ever been in a position to hire, the unfortunate truth is that, I mean, I've hired, I don't know, a lot of people. And the truth is, you get a lot of resumes and you just do a quick scan. And that's just what happens. Persistence and assertiveness pays off. So that's my advice to anyone listening to this who is job hunting.
I thought you were going to advise them that experience over education, because it's crazy. We spent all this time going to school to get these degrees, and all that the hiring managers want to see is marketing director.
Yeah, correct. And also experience over education. For sure, is the unfortunate worth. But then you got this catch-22 where it's like, oh, well, how am I supposed to get experience if no one will give me the experience? And that's where I have to say, as Elon Musk says, you can learn anything you want on YouTube. You can create an LLC, and you can become your own marketing director and run some social media as some dude for 3 months, and it's on your resume. Boom. Like, you can make your experience now. Now, granted, was my marketing director experience at the organic pizza catering company actual relevant? Like, not really. I didn't learn a lot. I made some flyers. I made pizzas. But that was what happened, and it got me noticed. Well, I still was on the hunt for an actual salary, and I began expanding my search radius. I lived in Greenville, South Carolina at the time. And so my wife, I got married, and my wife is from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And so I started looking in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I applied to this random job on LinkedIn called 97 Display. And I got a call and did an interview, and he hired me on the spot. He said, when can you start? I was like, well, I live 3 hours away. so like, I need 2 weeks. He's like, oh, I was hoping you could start Monday. And I was like, I need 2 weeks, man. I got to move. I got to quit my job. My wife has to quit her job and all this stuff. And then it began to sink in on me for 2 weeks as I'm quitting everything and moving. Is this a big scam? What is 97 Display? Like, what is this? And believe it or not, until I got my first paycheck, I thought it was a scam, because we were in a 97 Display was a startup. It was a guy in his basement making a bunch of websites, and all of his staff were virtual. And he was trying to bring everybody in and make a proper company. And so he gave his existing virtual staff members the opportunity to move. And most all of them declined. And so he was starting fresh with his new in-person company. So when I go up there, it's an empty office. Like, I'm like, is this a scam? Like, what is happening? What is 97 Display? Like, this is terrible.
A dark basement.
I mean, he actually, his first office, our first office was a great office. And I just remember my first day, he was like, man, we should go decorate the office. And I was like, okay, let's go to Party City. So I was like, I'm texting my friends, dude, I got a $50 decoration credit at Party City to decorate my office. And it was like, just fun. It was just wild. And so what happened was, I was working for this guy, and, within a week I was like, hey, have you thought about doing something like this? Or have you thought about talking like this? Or have you thought about promoting it like this? And I whipped up like a marketing asset or two. And the owner said, hey, do you want to be my marketing director? I was like, sure. So, okay. And then, so I started doing that. And then there was a big trade show, the Martial Arts Super Show. We had never been. He's like, man, I'm thinking about going. I was like, hey, I'll spearhead it. So I like spearheaded this trade show. And I had like the agenda, and I had the itinerary. I had everything figured out. My first time in Vegas, everything was to a T. And we went there, and it was a smashing success. And we did a really great job. What was funny was that the owner had a fear of flying, and so he wouldn't fly. So I began being the person that would go and fly everywhere to talk to people, because he just wouldn't fly. And that was, in hindsight, great for me, because it got me a lot of opportunities. And so, I think I'm tying these two things together. It was a YOLO mentality, where it's like if I wanted something, how to go get it, both in my early life and now in my first actual job. If I wanted something, I had to go do it. I thought they should do this way, so I did it. I thought we should market it like this, so I did it. I thought we should do this trade show, so I made it. And now, from a boss standpoint, my assertive staff, who are also open to constructive criticism and also can hear no and not freak out, are the people that have done the most in 97 Display. Like the staff that have innovative ideas, that go for it. I would rather you go for innovation and fail and try than never try. Like, being stagnant is something that if you're going to be stagnant in your ideas, you're going to be stagnant in your career. And that's going to cause stagnation in all areas of your life, whether it be personal, financial, or relational. So I always, so I took that kind of YOLO mentality. And then we, speaking of trade shows, there's a trade show in Australia, and I wanted to go. And so, we thought it was a good idea. So we ended up going, and my plane ticket was $3,000. And I said, I can't go to Australia without taking my wife. But, my boss wouldn't pay for her ticket too. So I opened up a credit card, because I had no money either. I opened up a credit card, 0 interest for like, a year. And I would buy my wife's plane ticket on this credit card. So we went to Australia. I mean, I was only at the company for 10 months. Fly down to Australia, and my boss said to me at the time, come back with 10 accounts or don't come back at all. And I was like, so I go to Australia, and I go to this trade show, and it was great. Like the way I did the presentation, and the organization that was putting it on, huge supporter of us, and they came and vetted me, and I'm this young guy, and I'll never forget, at the end of it, a line formed at my table. It was the most amazing. If you're a marketing or in sales and you do a talk and a line forms, people trying to sign up. So I sold 8 accounts. It was a small conference. Line formed, I sold 8. Kind of freaking out. I was like, I got to sell a few more. So I'm trying to hustle. And the guy says to me, hey, look, I have a mastermind. I want you to come, and I want you to speak at my mastermind, but it's in 2 weeks' time. And the date of his mastermind was the date of my flight home, because I was going to take a little bit of a vacation with my wife. And I said, oh gosh, what do I do? So I end up talking with my wife. We take a week of vacation, and then I push my flight 24 hours. My wife flies home from Australia without me. I go to this mastermind, and it's this round table. And if you are in the martial arts industry, you just kind of know how these meetings go. There's a round table of all these amazing guys. And here I am. At the time, I was 24 or 5, like I was young, and I'm just like, what is happening? And he says, and they like give me this intro like I am a genius. And I stand up and I just say, we can make you the best websites you've ever had in your life. Little pitch, sit down. I ended up selling 2 websites. So I made my 10, woohoo. Then I flew home by myself the next day. Well, the 10th website that I sold was a guy by the name of Bill Wakefield. If you watch this recording, thank you very much. You rock, Bill, still a customer of ours. He's down in Australia. And he says, look, I want to introduce you to my friend. He's interested in what you've got what you've got going on. So he introduces me to his friend. And it was the guy who at the time was running or up in the executive team of Member Solutions. And I didn't know anything about Member Solutions. I didn't know anything about that. And he says, he calls me up, and I thought I'm selling the dude a website because that's just the way he made it seem. And he said, man, we would love to buy you. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, no, we'd love to buy you. And I said, okay, well, look, don't talk to me. You got to talk to my boss. So yeah, anyway, I connected with a boss, and at the time, the way that it worked out, by that point, we had grown fairly significantly. We were maybe at that point, we were maybe $1 million company, like not that big, but a decent sized chunk. And we probably had 200 accounts, maybe 250. And the owner was, he was looking to go back to school. He was looking to do other things, but I think websites is it's technology, and technology can get spooky because you can get disrupted real fast. And if you guys are in the technology space, you can get disrupted. And so, his motivation was to de-risk. And so he ended up closing the deal, and I was a part of that process. I'll never forget. He came into my house. We prepped. People came to do due diligence. We're prepping, and a lot of the deal was, now I'm going to take over the company upon acquisition. And most acquiring companies won't buy it if the founder's leaving right away. But I sat down, and once again, here's some people in suits talking to me about what's my vision for this company. And granted, I'd been there for a year and a half. Like, we had done a lot of stuff, we'd grown it, but and again, it's that attitude of YOLO. Like, look, I'm blessed. I'm going to keep on working hard. Here's my ideas. Here's my vision. I'm going to do this, this, and this. Like, take it or leave it. Like, if you like it, awesome. If you don't, okay. And I've learned in my short career that nobody knows what's going on. Very few people have very accurate visions and want it to be very specific. Most people have ideas and really need integrators to get it across the finish line. And so that's why, like, these people, the company that ultimately bought us was like, I think they were very attracted to the idea that I just had a game plan. Like, they seemed smart, had a game plan, let's go. Well, I find out later they were always intending on not entrusting me with the business. They were going to bring someone else in to be the GM. But then that first month after acquisition, my core group of staff kind of came together. We were like, this is our company now. Like, this is us. We don't own it, but this is ours. Nobody quit through the implementation. Everyone bonded together, and it formed this bond that is just so special. And so we had a record month 1, record month 2, record month 3. And what ended up happening was years later, I saw the acquisition spreadsheet, and the acquisition spreadsheet has different scenarios on what they think might happen in the future. And they had a winning scenario. And the actual reality of what we did was 3 times better than their winning best case scenario. And so and now it's 6 years later, and we are more than quadruple the size in both revenue, staff, and clients. It hasn't been one of those like massive, 400% growth, like in year 1 kind of companies. It's been a good 30%, 35% growth year over year. And that's just been our story, and good employee. Like, I don't really lose employees. It's been great. I mean, we have every once in a while life things happen, change, but it's been a good core group of people. They stick around, they work hard. My team has just been amazing, and it has pushed me to the point where now, I even get to focus on acquiring other companies now, which has been just really cool. So that's kind of this next phase of my career is moving into an acquisition sort of role as I run 97, is to look for interesting softwares to grow.
You guys are part of, is the group Member Solutions, or is it part of another Like, what's the group that you guys are a part of now?
Yeah, so it's a company called Jonas Software, and they are a vertical market acquisition software brand. Member Solutions is also owned by Jonas, so members would be like a sister company. It's a unique place because they allow every brand to remain autonomous. So I thought we would get looped in to be assimilated within this existing brand. Frankly, to me, I thought we were just going to be absorbed by a bigger martial arts brand, when in reality, we've been able to remain completely autonomous. They take all the stuff that kind of suck your life away, like HR, legal, accounting. They handle all of that, and I get to focus on R&D, marketing, sales, and supporting the product and all the fun stuff. And so, while I'm a sister company with Member Solutions, and I will do some guest blogs and stuff, like if I want to work a deal with them, like to get access to their customers or they get access to mine, like we have to strike a deal just like they are a different company. And that allows me to compete. So, and for a long time, they had a different website partner who I had to compete to win that, which is, I think, a healthy way of looking at them. And a lot of these software companies that get snatched up by VCs are just chopped up, torn apart, and hoping that it takes off. Well, the Jonas model is that they allow us to be autonomous. They give us best practices. They take away all the stuff that sucks our lives away, and then they let us do our thing. And they never will sell us. So it's a buy and hold forever philosophy. So it's it's the home for the brand. And it's been extraordinary for us. For me, the security of knowing that I'm not going to get just, spun off into something else. The fact that they trusted even a small company at the time to a young guy, I think just speaks volumes. They give mentorship, so I've been having now instant network of interesting other software business owners that just kind of poured into me. So I feel I viewed my tenure at 97 as like a MBA, like, okay, I'm still going to learn. Like I'm learning. My 20s were for learning. And I only wish that I had begun that learning process 4 years earlier, is really the truth.
Well, so now that you've got your MBA and it seems like you're very happy and engaged with what you're doing, do you have and you don't seem stagnant. I know you guys have been working on some other things, but do you have other itches, other things either within or outside of 97 Display that I know that we talked about the martial arts school piece, and that was something that was a learning experience, but are there other things that you're either adding to the mix or have your eye on for the long run, like that to keep you growing?
Yeah. So you're asking, do I have side hustles?
Maybe, or future hustle ambitions. I mean, is this it? Are you 97 Display 24/7, 365, or is there something else that you're, thinking about, or what's next, if anything? I'm just,
Yeah, no. So 97 Display is obviously the majority of my brain. I do have 2 young children, so that's the other vast majority of my brain. I bought the school. That was a personal investment. And that was fun for the time. It was very difficult. I learned about that. I also have an interesting interest in I'm on the board of advisors with a app for board gamers. That's actually pretty cool. You can go tokengames.com, TOKYN games.com. It's like it's in development right now. I don't do a lot with them. I help with some advising. I did some couple marketing stuff. I went through an accelerator program with them. That was a lot of fun. I got to learn about that whole world. So that's pretty cool. It's an app for board gamers to meet up with like-minded board gamers. Like if you really want to play Risk tonight, boom, do a beacon, pings everyone that likes Risk, say, hey, you want to play Risk tonight. The board game industry is really fascinating to research. And again, when I'm not a martial artist and I run a martial arts company, I'm not a board gamer. I mean, I love board games, don't get me wrong, but I help out with this board game company. Really excited about that. It is in market. It's in market in select cities. So unfortunately we're not nationwide, but
okay. So it is a physical, it's like you meet up in person the game that night.
So cool. We've released in select cities as we figure out what critical mass is, like how many users if you want to play Risk, can you actually play Risk? So nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I've done that. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot. I try to consume a lot of content. So and 97 display is always like, I've got some really interesting projects there, like outside of the website game, where it's like, there's always something challenging, always something to grow, and always something to figure out and do. And so I'm certainly not bored. I tell people I've been so blessed to not be bored for 7 years. And I think that's remarkable. Like, I love that.
Yeah. I hear you on that one. You were just touching on this. I'm curious, what if you had, this is a little bit like down in the weeds. I don't mean to take you here, but I'm actually curious around, for your customers, whether they're gyms or the martial arts studios. Do you think, I know that the website is like your leading solution, but do you think that there is a recipe of solutions that is like the combo for the most successful martial arts schools? Is it, where are they getting their growth from? And I know we've got a pandemic now, so things are all weird, but do you think that it's your website and local listings generate 50% of your, determine 50% of your success, and then it's this, and this? Or like, what do you think the main drivers are for growing your martial arts school or your gym? And I hate to think about right now, because I know it's so much different right now.
No. So COVID aside, and frankly, even with COVID, it's all the same. Don't think about it like like a lottery ticket. Well, like which lottery ticket do I got to buy? It's a house, man. Like how big do you want your house to be? Because you can have a little house and you can have a big house. So I always say that the website for a local service-based business, the website is your foundation. Now, can you build a house without a foundation? Absolutely. Like, you can go run a PPC campaign and you can have no foundation, and that's fine. And you're going to have your structure, and it might be amazing. But what's going to end up happening is it's going to be disrupted with the next Google slap or Facebook slap, or something happens or your account gets banned, and all of a sudden, boom, there goes your house. Your ranking locally is what will continue to pay dividends over time. So start with the foundation, build a good foundation where if someone Googles what you do, own that. Because guess what? If you're running a PPC ad campaign, maybe PPC is going to be like your master bedroom suite. Like, it's a really important part of the house. Maybe it's the kitchen. It's very important. But like, if you build a PPC campaign, there is a percentage of those people that will think to themselves, who did I just opt in on for this 6-week challenge? Like, who is this brand after all? And guess what they do? They Google you. And then they start to form an impression in their minds. Like, oh, is this a good brand or a bad brand? So if you get the majority of your new business through PPC and you have a appointment show problem, sure, look at your appointment confirmation flows, but also look at what happens when you Google yourself. Like, that's a real thing. Like, people will, an hour before their appointment, think to themselves, where the heck am I going? And then they Google you, and then they decide, oh crap, guess what? If your competition appears when they Google you, because guess what? Sometimes they do on Google Maps, and they have more 5-star reviews, they start to second guess their decision. So it's a really important thing. So the website is your foundation. Like, and it's also like, you can, referrals and grassroots marketing certainly have a place. Like, that can be your garage. Like, if you want a bigger house, diversify your marketing stream. So I always say, like, know how many leads do you need a month to sell? How many new members is your goal? And then, okay, let's say you need 100 leads a month. Well, how many are going to come? What's your average organic website leads? What's your average PPC campaign? What's your average number of referrals? And now referrals is going to be the smallest, PPC is going to be the biggest, but you can begin to see what your averages are. And that is how you can get predictable. And Patrick, all you, predictable revenue. How about like predictability surrounding your leads? Like, there is an actual, like, you can begin to forecast accurately and then set goals and then go for them. And sure, maybe you won't get them every single month, but I would say start with the website, right? And make sure when you're Googling yourself, it's fine. And then when you start to get into PPC ad campaigns, like, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, man, I've been flirting. I've been running ads for 97 display, and it changes all of the time. I don't have time for that. Like, now I hire people to do that. So my thing is, if you're a business owner, like have the number of leads that you need, nail your sales process and outsource the media buying.
It's a great answer. The analogy of a house and the foundation is a great analogy. We see and we've seen a lot, and even you see this too, but I mean, so many businesses that build their business or rely on one source of new customers, whether it be relying only on grassroots or relying only on paid ads or whatever the case is. It is such a sandy foundation when you only have a couple sources that you actually can't even control versus a foundation of listings, reviews, strong website, things that are going to kind of stand up through the test of time. But I mean, inside of franchises, oftentimes they're kind of left to the next ad campaign because they can't really have touched their website. They're kind of at the mercy of what they're getting from corporate plus paid ads. It seems like that was the culture for the last few years. And we try to move a lot of our clients towards email drips and organic social and a few other things. But that's a great analogy and definitely very helpful way to think about it. So do you, my next question is, do you guys have, I know you had, when we last spoke, and then I didn't see you take action on this, even though you had an action item, we talked about other markets that you were looking to go into. Have you been pushing further down into new markets or sticking with martial arts and fitness?
Yeah, well, there is action on that. It's just not as abundant. So it's under different brand names. It's all PPC. It's quite difficult, actually. There is a little bit of action there. I actually just finished out Q3, and I have this every quarter. I have a huge analysis on the company with every aspect you can imagine. That's the other thing with Jonas is they kind of train you how to think about a healthy business, and they give you all these formulas for like calculating. Like, are you spending too much on your R&D team? Are you spending too much on your maintenance? So I really dove into some of our stats, which is where our revenue is coming from. And so right now, about 10% of our customer base, just north of 10% of our customer base, we consider not fitness or martial arts. So it's a small amount, but it's interesting because when COVID hit, obviously the fitness industry was disrupted significantly, and we were giving a lot of discounts. We experienced a lot of churn, and I observed this 10% of our base that were not fitness, and we did not see any disruption. So for me, from a stability of revenue standpoint, as winter approaches, as who knows what's going to happen. By the way, I'm yesterday was my first day outside of quarantine from my COVID catching. Yeah, so.
What do you mean by outside of quarantine? Like
I got COVID, and then yesterday was day 15. So
well, man, I'm glad you're okay. Jeez, I don't want to make this a COVID interview, but was it terrible? Was it okay?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think we're quickly approaching where a lot more people will have their COVID experience story. I was very fortunate, 0 symptoms, 0 issues, didn't give it to anyone. So like the best case scenario you can imagine, if I didn't have a positive test, I would have thought it was a false positive. The only reason why I took a test is because we had a house guest who informed us 2 days after she was hanging out inside for a few hours that she was positive. And so my wife and I took a test. My wife was negative. I was positive. So I was like, well, how does that work? And fortunately with 2 kids, I don't really get out much. So the 2 days between her visit and her notifying us, I'd only seen so many people. So like I called them up, they all took tests. They were all negative. And then for the next 14 days, I was just waiting to see if something happened. Nothing happened. On day 6, I was like, let's test this thing. So I went out, I ran for a mile, and I did some air squats and some burpees. And I felt kind of winded, but that could have been just me sitting on my butt for a week and then working out. I don't know, but I felt very fortunate.
About a month ago, I thought I had COVID and I quarantined myself for 2 weeks, told everyone I had it because they tell you not to go to the hospital if you think you have it. So I didn't, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to go get tested then. And then I waited until I felt better. I went and got a test. I did get a flu of some kind, but it wasn't COVID.
Yeah, it's interesting. My experience was, I feel very fortunate. Now, granted, I since COVID hit, I've been doing like 500% vitamin D daily. I've been doing 3 weekly CrossFit and soccer. I'm very active. I'm in the best shape of my life this year. So I have to hope that contributed to my success. But, you also can find enough stories of perfectly healthy people that are getting a heck of a time. So the mysteriousness around it is what's, I think, disconcerting. But my experience was frankly fantastic for all intents and purposes. And I tell you what, I got an Amazon Prime package. And for the first time in months, my thought was like, oh, this box could make me sick. And I was like, oh, I'm free from that. I can go get my Amazon Prime box and not freak out about it. So that was cool. And my kids are healthy. So I'm very fortunate.
How long do you have like antibodies, or how long do they know?
Nobody knows. They said there is like no chance. No one has observed catching it for 3 months. And then like, it's like a 2% chance from month 3 to 6, and they don't know after 6. So, because, again, nobody, and I imagine there's different kinds now as it's begun to mutate. So hopefully what I caught was a very weak strand, but still gave me the antibodies. And like my buddies that caught it in the beginning of the pandemic had a real rough time. I imagine that whatever was going on there was different, certainly, than what I got. Unless it was a false positive, but apparently those are really rare too. But
Coop, do you have any questions yourself? And then I think we can open it up to the group if other folks want to jump in, ask questions, chat them to Coop, or unmute yourselves. But let's start with the DJ. Anything?
Yeah, so first, Tim, thanks for being our special guest today at this Fireside Chat. It's always appreciated. My question for you is, what do you find difficult to do well when your company was growing? So what do you find difficult to do well when your company was growing?
Yeah, well, I'll make this a little personal. I believe wholeheartedly in like personality tests, like getting to understand yourself, and not from like hippie sort of like know yourself, but like we are wired differently, and we have different things inside of us, whether it be biological or mental or how you were brought up, that really drive how you see the world. So I've known for years what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And as we were growing and growing and growing, I found myself not hiring my weaknesses, but hiring my strengths. And then we got a lot of people with the same strengths. And then we had some big problems, like one of them being like keeping people accountable. And in the early years, as we were growing, there were just some people that stayed for too long because I had a great culture. And I really needed to fire people faster, is the honest truth. And the reason why is like one of my weaknesses is I avoid conflict like it's a plague. And for like an entrepreneur leader, you have to look at conflict as not the end of the world. You've got to look at it like a opportunity for growth, and you can love people and fire them at the same time. Like there's a way to do it. And that was extraordinarily difficult. One of, like I talked about in the very beginning, I'm this young guy, we took over the company. Well, I was the youngest person in the company. And now all of a sudden I was the boss of other people that were older than me, but we all kind of saw it as our company. Like this was our brand. And years went by, we were together. I felt like something emotional to these people that went through this journey with me. But at the end of the day, sometimes the company outgrows the individuals within it. And so I started to have some really hard conversations. I'll never forget being in my office, like literally vomiting in my trash can, preparing to have a performance review, and that was bad. And it's like, wait a second, I'm the boss. Like what? So that was something as we grew, as the company outgrew the people inside of it. And as people, like we had to evolve, and some people just didn't. And that was really hard because you kind of then have to look what is best for the people that are going to take us, to the next level. Like the truth is, the journey from 0 to 1 million is totally different than 1 to 3. And the journey to 3 to 5 is different than 1 to 3. And now we're on a journey to 10 million. and it's going to take a different company. And so like I have a fantastic team that are running the day-to-day, doing fantastic things, and I'm really fortunate for them. So if I could redo things, I would have read this book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. I would have read this in the very beginning. This was my COVID mantra when COVID hit, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my company is to try to figure out how to not be out of business. This was my Bible. I strongly recommend it, but this would have been really helpful. There is literally a chapter titled like how to fire a friend. It's like, okay, could have used that.
Yeah. It's funny that you pulled for that book from your shelf, because I was going to ask you candidly on the books behind you, what was the one that was most influential and why? So you actually kind of stole one of my questions.
Well, that was up there. I'm a huge Russell Brunson fan. This is, I mean, if you haven't read Expert Secrets, like the life-changing book right here, that's a good one. Yeah.
I haven't read that one. I read the .com secrets, and there were some good nuggets in there. I
cried reading .com secrets, not because it was anything other than it came out a long time ago, and this was early in my career, and I was learning all this stuff from researching, and then it was like I had all this knowledge, and .com secrets actually put it into words, and it was actually a cathartic experience where I was like, I'm not crazy. That was like my birth into understanding internet marketing from an entrepreneurial stance. When that book came out, I felt like I was like, I know all this stuff. I know it. But then I didn't, because I hadn't actually put it together in a way that worked. So
I feel like what that book did really well was Russell Brunson specifically called out that the diagrams will tell you the pictures that you'll, or the stories that you'll remember forever. Like you might not remember every piece of content, but those diagrams in each chapter like really do resonate and they do stick with you. Cool. And James, I know that you just opened up your camera, which is all fine and dandy. Did you have a question that maybe you wanted to ask?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Coop. Tim, nice to see you.
Hey.
And just to iterate what Coop said, thanks for being a special guest today and kind of telling us your journey. One question that I wanted to ask to you was, let's say that you met somebody just coming out of high school. What would be one thing that you would recommend to them that you've experienced with inside of your life that you may be able to pass along to them to make their journey less bumpy, let's say?
Yeah, sure. I've thought about this. I've thought about going back to my university and talking to seniors about like how I interview and how I look into candidates. So one of the things that's really important when viewing, I think, your life is always looking like you are here to serve, but then also looking at it from like, how am I learning? How am I progressing? And I'll tell a story. The other day I was in the gym and I was doing overhead squats, and I have some really bad posture. Like I've had bad posture issues my whole life. And so I'm doing these overhead squats and my form is bad. And, they brought me all the way down to a PVC pipe. Like that was where I was at. And my coach said to me, you need to do these stretches every single day. You have to do this because otherwise you're going to get scar tissue in your shoulders and in your back. And then it's going to get to the point where it's irreversible. So you really need to be doing these stretches every single day. He's like, but it's not your fault. It's what happens when you work at a desk every day. And I looked at him and said, don't victim me. I'm not a victim of a desk job. I've chosen not to work on my posture and come work out and invest into my health for 30 years. That's why I have bad posture. And so my advice to especially people graduating college is like, when you can't get a job or when something's struggling, like it is so easy to point at all the reasons why you can't. And don't get me wrong, there is certainly things that are not just and not fair. Like things just aren't fair. That happens all the time. But if you focus on what's not fair, and you get yourself into a mindset where like, oh no, I just can't do it, or it's this person's better than me, or I just whatever, and you start to view yourself as a victim, that's not going to give you a mindset where you're going to have that next idea. You're not going to have the attitude that is required to present yourself well when the next opportunity comes. And so your mindset is so important. And I tell people at 97 Display, I do these interviews called life story interviews. And the life story interview is essentially I walk through someone's life together with them. And they define the story. I'm like, tell me something like, where was your first job? What did you learn? What was easy? What was hard? And the whole purpose of the interview is to hear if throughout their life, if something challenging happened, was it their fault or was it someone else's fault? So if you, the whole purpose of the interview is if they say, well, this job didn't work out because my boss was crazy, or this job didn't work out because they didn't give me enough training, or this didn't work out. While all that might be factually true, it's what's your attitude about that? And so I look for that mindset. And I would just say life will not be fair in some instances, and certainly in some people, it's more unfair than others. But the way that you think about it and the way that you conduct yourself is your choice. And you can choose how you're going to wake up every single morning, and you're going to get to choose how you're going to present yourself. And that daily personal mastery will set you apart from the average human. And when you are above average, that's where opportunity comes from.
You just hit a grand slam on that answer, by the way. That is amazing, man. That's some Tony Robbins magic right there. It's unbelievable. You can't have solutions when you're feeling like a victim, but if you're not putting on the victim mentality, I mean, it's amazing. I think you just crushed that one. Everything. Nice job.
Thanks. We got on recording. Yeah.
Now I want to ask a follow-up to it. Was there what maybe mentored you, or where did you come up with that answer? Like how did that come to fruition?
Other people smarter than me, and I digest their content. Like people that are very smart, I listen to. Like that's the other thing. There's not that many books on the wall. I don't know a single person who has read all of those books. So if I read all those books, even if I only retain 25%, I'm going to be smarter than other people. I listen to podcasts. There are some people that Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has amazing things to say. If you consume his content, you got to kind of take some of it with a grain of salt. But if you listen to some of the stuff he says, and then you retain it and you think about it and you learn from people that are smarter. If you think about human beings over time have accumulated a lot of information. And so let's just take Jordan Peterson, for example. He is a smart person. He's read a bunch of books and now he's talking. Well, those people that wrote the books that he read, they also read a bunch of books. So they became smarter. And over time, it's this big snowball effect where humanity is getting really a lot of knowledge. And so for someone to write a book is really interesting. For someone to write a book, they're already above average human, right? And so it's like, okay, if I can take the words of someone who has actually been published that has good things to say, that's going to be the accumulation of 100 people's knowledge into one in a book. And if I read a lot of it, then I learn. So I think that's part of it. Frankly, the whole victim mentality thing is, I don't know, life, man, smart people hang out. Oh, another advice is you really need to think about who you allow to influence you. I don't do social media. I mean, I'm a social media marketing expert, not on social media. I can't consume the content. There's too many stupid people saying stupid things, and you can't, there's real power in what you put into your brain. And I just think you really have to guard. You really have to guard it. You can only consume so much information. So really being guarded of what you consume. My junk food for consuming information is soccer. I'm an avid Barcelona fan. If I'm going to consume meaningless information, it's going to be all Barcelona things. You can follow me on Twitter called Barca NC. I've got 20 followers. I'm really proud of that. And I live stream matches. I live tweet matches while I watch them. And I play soccer pretty avidly, and I'm not myself on the pitch. I get really angry and I'm very competitive. And that's where that's my release is soccer. So.
Hey man, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you again.
Yep.
Any other questions, Kayla and Dana, Coop? you want to jump in, please do.
Yeah, and I don't know, Patrick, if you mentioned this, and if you did, I'm sorry for the repeat question, but Tim, I know 90% of your book of business is martial arts academies and schools. Is there another industry or vertical that you would like to dive into deeper?
I'm interested in verticals where the consumer base is behind the times for two reasons. Number one, while they're harder to sell, they have a greater need. And then second of all, if an industry collectively is behind the times, they're going to be a laggard industry. So in the internet marketing space, churn is a real problem. So laggard industries essentially means if they buy from you, they're probably going to stick around longer just because they have not demonstrated a history of hopping from solution to solution to solution. And so if you look at some industries that are super outdated, like even the CPA industry, they don't do a lot in terms of internet marketing. A few of them get in, and so when you can get a customer, they usually perform very well, and they usually will stick around for a long time. So I don't have a good answer for you of what industries are most exciting for me. I think I'm the kind of person where I'm going to go and cast a lot of fishing lines, and if I get a bite that sounds interesting, we'll go for it. 97 Display is laser focused on martial arts and fitness. They're doing a fantastic job. I have the freedom because of my team's ability to execute to begin to focus and learn about some of these other spaces. There's some opportunities in even music schools that's really interesting for us. And there's some opportunities in the childcare space that's really interesting. So we'll see. I think it's going to be like, okay, cool. Once I strike a big deal, that'll be all in on that for the time.
Got it. Well, thank you for answering that question. I have one more, if it's all right, Patrick. And it's that with consumer products and services like Weebly, Wix, things that people can do on their own, what sets 97 Display apart from that competition and, makes it a better performing website? Like, what is it that's different about 97 Display and what you create versus like someone like me creating a Weebly landing page or a Wix landing page?
Well, man, I wish we should have talked about this at 2:10. So we'll leave on a high note and bragging note. So 97 Display is the only website platform that I know that exists in the world that has the ability to track data like we do. So we are not a branding agency. We are not a creative agency. We are a data agency. All we do is we look at the data. And so you can imagine with 1,000 martial arts schools, we see a lot of people searching for martial arts schools. We look at how do they behave? What source did they come from and how did that influence their journey? What pages do they click on? How long do they stay? And then all we do is we A/B test. Bing, we just A/B test. Call to actions, buttons, layouts, designs, blah, blah. And so that's all 97 Display is 7 years of A/B testing and the ability to see, now that we've grown so much, I now can see trends where I can tell you iPhone 12, like, okay, how much traffic is going to come from that iPhone 12? And is there a difference in the way that those people behave versus others? I can do that. No one else can do that. Now, most of the time, that information isn't particularly useful across the board, but every once in a while we see a trend and we can apply it. In addition to that, we have purchasing power with our servers, with what we do. We link all the websites together. We have so much, we're so big now that gives us some really good advantages in terms of SEO and also in terms of, like, for example, when you launch a website with us, like, you're not going to see any disruption for your SEO or downtime or anything because of the power that we've been able to build up. And also the designs we have are not like Tim's best guess at what a design should be. It's based upon the collective data over time. It's truly a machine. It's great. And then you combine the automations where it's like the majority of other website agencies, they have these, like, maybe an SOP where it's like, cool, do all this stuff, but you still have human errors. We have so many automations now where there's not a human error. Like, every image that is uploaded is auto tagged with parameters that have to do with their keywords. So it's like, if I upload an image to your site, it's all automatic. It's going to be like school name, martial arts, classes or something like that. And it depends on where you upload it. It gets tagged automatically. And so what that does is there's no image, there's no like alt tags that aren't automatically applied or forgotten about. You don't have any like img.555 image alt tags, like, because it's all automated. And so it removes the human error while not having to charge an arm and a leg. And I mean, I could go for a while at what is unique about our software. We're not on WordPress or anything like that. It's a unique piece of software that's really going to be interesting. And now we've kind of entered into the realm where we've got agencies that are white labeling what we're doing and then selling it to their bases. And it's a really cool, great, I think 97, the software platform, will be a WordPress in the future where people build their own stuff on top of us and pay a licensing fee, et cetera. But my final point before I run out of time is just because it's the way we've built it, I'm able to mass update. So let's just say something happens with the iPhone 12 and we need to do an update. We just have to update the software and that will apply to everybody. So there's no website left behind. And so like we call it evolving, we call it hashtag future proof, where you don't have any stagnant website with us. It truly evolves as needed to maintain relevancy. And I think that's freaking badass.
That is badass.
Awesome.
Tim, thank you so much, Tim A, for the time and contributing. I mean, there's at least 4 or 5 things in here that I learned today about definitely you, and then also just things that I can from the books you read and the people who wrote them. But thank you so much, and it's good to see you. Good to catch up. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Really appreciate Nerdwise, all you guys do. Thanks for having me on and giving me some microphone time. So thanks, guys.
Take care.